is just fantastic.
Before we start today's video, I wanted to promote something. Do forgive here, but I've been put in a bit of a difficult spot, and I have very little way of options. And I had said I wouldn't be doing things like this in the future, but this one concerns my dog. In the past, I've raised money for my family's dogs and cats, and through you guys, they have seen better lives. Today, I had to take my dog to the vet because of what we now know is an infected uterus that requires a surgery tomorrow. This surgery is quite expensive, and I can't afford the entire bill. If anyone is willing to help, the link to my coffee will be the only link in the pinned comment. It is not, of course, compulsory, and I know the obligatory get a job. I do have a job. Sadly, it does not pay enough for me to front this bill immediately. That's, of course, my fault. Thank you for being that person to tell me. Any help, of course, will be appreciated, and I will post in the community tab here and on Twitter a picture of the receipt once I have it tomorrow. Thank you. Today we're going to be talking about Johnny Somali. Johnny Somali is a clown that deserves karmic justice and is getting karmic justice. I wouldn't be surprised if in the future he decides to emulate Earl Hickey, write his list and right all the wrongs he had committed in his lifetime. But if he's a good little karmic justice seeker, he'll never ever manage to complete that list. He is a poser, a fraud, an idiot, a moron, a clown, as I've earlier stated, that deserves everything that comes his way. And Korea is giving him that, which we here on the internet fully support. This is not, by the way, before someone says it, a free speech issue. No, he has freely spoken in a country that does not tolerate his BS, much like Israel before and Japan, one of which he is banned from. Or is he banned from both now? I can't remember. He's gotten into a habit of being banned from every country he's been to. I was hoping he'd come to the UK, because if he came here, there's a chance the chavs would get him, but there's also a chance he'd be treated like a messiah, which I would find highly amusing. He has for a while been in detention, he has been held, Johnny Somali, has been put into a position of highly restrictive existence because of his actions, his disrespect, and his intentional, willful attitude towards other people, locals, within the countries he goes to that he tries to insult, degrade, attack, and all for what? Oh, that's right, streaming clout. He is one of the many damning statements for the current state of affairs with regards to IRL streamers, many of whom do not understand the word decorum because it means actually paying attention. They also all seem to lack any viable interpersonal skills, meaning they don't have any real-world experience that could in any way allow them to have a real job. In before someone says, this is a real job. You're right, it is. Perhaps I should rephrase it from the black pill boomered language and instead state a job away from the internet where they might actually prosper and live a better life where their mental health is not well and truly compromised, and their egos don't desperately need to be sated by begging it up and acting like a twat on the internet. Oh, the irony. I know, am I right, guys? None of these idiots, Johnny especially, possess an iota of capacity to introspect, so they can't consider how they can be wrong, but they can give you a plastic version of it. There are three states of matter: elastic, plastic, and brittle. Everything about Johnny is plastic. It can be moved and vaguely go back to where it once was, but it will never truly be what it once was because the damage is done. His reputation, though, is based on him being a young twerp, and boy does he do that well. I have covered him before on this channel. I would link videos down below, but I can't do that. Instead, I'm going to suggest if you want the Cliff's Notes, I'm going to provide it here. In October of last year in a convenience store, Johnny Somali confronted a store employee after she advised him against drinking alcohol on the premises. He went on to make sexist remarks during the altercation. He approached a Comfort Women memorial statue, who are victims of wartime sex slavery by Japan, and kissed and danced near the statue, considered highly offensive. On public transport, he verbally, racially abused everyone he could see and attack. In public, he did exactly the same thing and even challenged people to attack him. So they did. He was formally indicted without detention by sole prosecutors on November the 12th for causing a commotion. And this, over time, has been added to because of other large amounts of evidence against him. He believes he'll be going home without any jail time at all. However, it should be pointed out he's against a prosecutor who has a 90% win ratio. The obstruction of business charge that he's actually facing could put him in jail for up to 5 years. That's ignoring the narcotics charge, because ongoing investigations believe him to have carried narcotics along with spreading North Korean propaganda. When it comes to North Korea, in South Korea, you need to pick your words incredibly carefully, especially if you're on a train. It's not a right move in the slightest. He is currently stuck in South Korea and will be there until the trial itself. And it gets funnier because he can't represent himself, he can't afford a defender, he has a public defender, and he can't make money off his live streams while he is in South Korea, meaning he is financially bound. So, more recently, Atozi on Twitter on March the 7th, so 3 days ago, tweeted, "Went to the Johnny Somali trial in Seoul, South Korea. Thing went terrible for him. He came in smiling and mocking us. But the smile was quickly cut quickly even, when the judge announced the charges. With the current official charges, he's facing a decade in prison. But we also found out more charges are coming alongside of a separate court case. The case before him had been ongoing for over a year, so it seems like either way, he will be stuck here for a while. If there's a takeaway, don't harass people in public for your content, then continue to double down over and over again." Now this intrigues me, because poor Johnny has been put into a real bind, hasn't he? He, for somebody who's vertically challenged, has been acting remarkably big. The bravado has been there. Misplaced arrogance is quite common with this type of streamer who believe themselves free of consequence. That's why I await the day, keenly await the day, Jack Doherty gets done like this as well, because I can't think of anyone more deserving, next to Johnny Somali that is. These IRL streamers to me are a cancer on the entire format of streaming. But here we are, and Johnny has had the smile wiped off his face. He has been humbled by a judge who has now told him, by the way, you're screwed. So what does Johnny do? Well, for that, we can actually go to an Atozi livestream, 11 minutes long after the court part itself.
I just got out of the Johnny Somali trial. So the thing is, we just got out of the trial. It went absolutely terrible for Johnny because Johnny showed up more than an hour late with a MAGA hat on and a big bottle of water, and he was just screaming at essentially he got in trouble for, number one, wearing the hat, and number two, the bottle.
What I love about this update so far is that Johnny has proceeded to make things even worse for himself, because he's yet to actually feel that humbling sensation. It's not the tingly one he gets when he gets to touch a person with consent. No, that's a different tingle. He'll have that when he's in prison. No, instead, he's yet to feel the genuine force of consequence. The negative side, that is. Because everything for him is just a dream. I feel like Avenged Sevenfold are right with their very complicated album. Life is but a dream. For him, life is but a consequence. For everyone else apart from him, apparently.
So now there's 4 charges that was in that trial, correct?
There are 4 charges against him, but only 3 of them were addressed today.
Okay.
The 4th charge, which he just discovered about the other day, which I brought up on my stream 2 days ago, and he got the notice of in Korean yesterday. Actually, didn't even get it. Sorry. So
oh wow.
He didn't know anything about it today, and his lawyer didn't know anything about it.
Yeah, they were pretty shocked.
I'm not gonna lie. I would have loved to have seen the look on Johnny's face as the shit-eating grin just dissipates further and further. It becomes one where he knows the only food he's going to be eating is served on a tray after his cellmate has had his fill of it first. Then again, if you're Johnny's size, you don't need much food anyway, do you now? Unless it's a cock meat sandwich. And if someone gets offended about these jokes, I highly recommend you watch Harold and Kumar, the second one. These jokes come from that. Alright?
Oh, okay. So that was a separate charge. Was that the charge that he was showing? And
the new obstruction.
Oh, the newest obstruction charge. Okay, yeah. So there's another charge as well that's coming against him about the deepfake stuff that he accidentally leaked on his stream last night. Because as we've been covering, I mean, he's been playing his cards in the worst way possible the whole time, from start to finish.
In South Korea, last year a law was passed that anyone who possessed deepfakes could be subject to 7 years in jail and a $22,000 fine. Johnny had some deepfakes and was promoting them on a live stream. Some of those deepfakes concern him being with people, famous celebrities in South Korea that is, none of which true, because no straight woman would knowingly want to get with someone like Johnny. Seriously, they have standards. Even he's not tall enough.
And last night, I guess he decided to get drunk at 3 in the morning, go live, and show up extremely late to court because of that. And on his live stream, he was doing, like, I guess, getting paid to do shots, and he ended up showing a new charge that hadn't been leaked to the public yet.
Don't you just love a drunk Johnny Somali, whose inhibitions vanish even more than they already had, and he decides to show us more than he really should be showing, which then in turn show us and tell us just how well and truly screwed the smeg it is.
So that charge was actually it's the police case that the police have given over to the prosecutor. So it means that they're going to prosecute it. It's going to trial. Yeah.
In the Korean system, once the police decide to actually formally charge you and they send it to the prosecutors, that's pretty much it. That's where you get the 90+% conviction rate. You're pretty much done. If they've decided to go that far, that means they have the evidence to prove the crime.
Oh, he is screwed then, isn't he? What a shame. You see, in other countries like mine, he would get a slap on the wrist because he meets certain criteria and quotas for diversity, equity and inclusion, and of course in my country where it's a two-tier system, even though politicians try and say otherwise, legal guidance actually prove it is a two-tier system, he would get the slap on the wrist. In South Korea, no, you bloody well don't. In fact, many of the countries he's been to, you don't. You really don't. But it's amusing that he might well think he has a chance. Him livestreaming could be seen as a hurrah, a last hurrah, before he disappears for a time. I want to see what he tries to do when he comes out, because I do think he's going to prison.
Right, okay, so the charges that we know, okay, so we have the 2 misdemeanors, which, number 1, it was for the fish.
Minor Crimes Act.
The Minor Crimes Act, which are essentially misdemeanors in the U.S. That was for running around with that fish. Then on top of that, there was another misdemeanor charge for him twerking on people on the subway, which so I'm surprised they haven't mentioned anything about him interrupting the concert, because he went up on stage and did a whole spiel there as well.
We don't know what that last obstruction charge is. Maybe
so that could be it, because that seemed to be televised.
It's funnier to know what these charges are, especially when you consider these are all still ongoing. Because, as they've stated, if it gets this far generally within the South Korean criminal justice system, if they've gotten this far, you're guilty. Johnny turning up in a suit that's far too big for him, which we do find out in this live stream, is hilarious, because it tells us he doesn't have the money to get something made to fit. Although I do believe it would be easier for him just to go to a shop and buy a figurine toy with clothes that can be taken off. With his skinny little frame, it would fit. Might still be too long though.
So these crimes are just for this district. The other crime is for the eastern. Is it the eastern? Yeah, the eastern district is the sex crime is for the eastern district. So that won't be in this court.
Right.
That'll be in the other courtroom.
So that crime that you just mentioned, that was the deep fake incident with the was it Bong Bong TV or something like that?
Probably Bong Bong. Yeah. Many of the Korean streamers have deep fakes with Johnny Somali, and they've all pressed charges, and none of them have dropped them. But I believe this one will be Bong Bong because it specifically mentioned
Probably,
female.
yeah, it's it.
This definitively tells us there will be more than one trial that Johnny, is facing. I'm loving this. I really am. I don't know how to suppress my giddiness any further than I already have, because it just wants to come out like a flower and blossom, and then slap Johnny Somali in the face.
So, and then obviously the last charge, which was the obstruction of business, that was confirmed to be in the 7-Eleven.
The judge saw him making faces at us.
Right, yeah, when he walked in.
And then on the bench, he made a face directly at me and Adozi.
In front of everyone.
Right to us, in
Very
front of everybody.
intelligent.
He looked to us and did
Yeah.
both of us.
I won't deny there's a level of swagger here that is quite unbecoming for someone like Johnny Somali. Now, with regards to the charges, we need to quickly address what Johnny decided to do, because it's important.
So, oh yeah, he has another case. What, it's scheduled for April 9th?
April 9th is going to be his plea, his time to plea for the new charge. So he pled guilty on the 3 counts, the old obstruction charge he got in November, then the 2 Minor Crimes Act. He pled guilty on those. But the new one he got this week, he hasn't pled anything. His lawyer hasn't reviewed it. So he's got to come back to court. He doesn't even know what it is.
What I love is we know so far, based on what he's pled guilty to, he's still looking at around 5 years. He really is. We know he's back in April, and yes, we know this takes time. I'm okay with the process taking time as long as the process is thorough and the chance to appeal is reduced significantly, not because of rights, but because they've been so thorough, there are no windows of opportunity. That's what I like. I would not be surprised, though, if in that time, the interim, the month we have before he goes back to that court, he pleads guilty anyway, because he may as well get it over and done with. There's very little in the chance or recourse for him to get out of this without, a slap on the wrist, in a prison cell.
A lot of people were saying
a year at this point, a minimum
a year is what you think. So a lot of people here are thinking he's going to get somewhere between 3 to 5 years in prison for all of this, which is crazy. But it'll be really interesting to see what happens moving forward.
For the remainder of this short live stream, they talk about the fact that this case you only find out about the next date at the next hearing. So you won't know when the next one is after that until April itself. We know nothing until then. Johnny doesn't either. That's not including the other case in another district. I think he'll get a year. I think that's actually what he'll get, about a year. But that doesn't include the other case. And we don't know enough, I don't anyway, about the South Korean criminal justice system to know whether it'll be a concurrent sentence or whether he'll be made to serve something after the first sentence if he's found guilty in the first place. But he's pled guilty, so we know there is guilt now. Does this make sense? I hope it does. I'm not going to lie, I found this short live stream to be the most fun I've ever had watching legal minds and geeks talk about legal stuff in quite some time. I will of course keep everyone posted on this, and if he does go to prison, that will of course be a Halls of Injustice. Because why not? It's Johnny Somali. He deserves it. As a final thing, I will be streaming later, here and on Twitch. Maybe just here instead, I'm not entirely sure just yet. Hope to see you there. If not, have a wonderful day and thank you very much for listening.